Detail about the Idaho murders could change everything we think we know about the case so far. A neighbor told our Daily Mail reporters that they saw this door right here, the front door to the house, wide open at around 8:30 in the morning on November 13th, that Sunday, hours after 4 people in that house would be murdered and before their bodies would be discovered. The murders are suspected to have taken place between 3 and 4 a.m. That is an approximation, and as of right now, we don't have any other information to indicate how long this door might have been left ajar. And here's how this new detail could potentially change things. You'll remember that in the early days of the investigation, pretty much everyone was suspicious about why the 2 roommates downstairs on the first floor were alive and unharmed. Many people moved on from those suspicions when we learned that allegedly investigators believe the killer entered through this sliding glass door on the second floor or one of the nearby windows also on the second floor. The murders took place on the second floor and the third floor. The 2 surviving roommates lived on the first floor. So the theory there is, if the killer entered on the second floor and then went upstairs and then exited through the second floor, they would have had no need to go to that bottom floor. But if this front door right here on the first floor was used by the killer, either on their way in or on their way out, we are back at square one with questions as to why these 2 first floor roommates were not harmed.
Yeah.
Home at the time of the attack?
There was other people home at that time, but we're not just focusing just on them, we're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence. Then we're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
So since they were home, was it a hostage situation?
No, it was not.
To clear it, I'm not saying that the murder weapon is back here, but primarily to make a determination if there's any physical evidence back here. Malta, this was a very gruesome murder scene, according to the medical examiner. According to the medical examiner, there was actually blood on the walls. And I can tell you, if we pan over, we're looking at
Olivia, who described the last night of the students' lives.
My sisters did everything right. They went out in the buddy system. They went out together. They Ubered out. They stopped and got food. They Ubered home. They let their dog out to go potty. And then they locked their house up. They did everything right. And this still happened.
Described the last night of the students' lives.
My sisters did everything right. They went out in the buddy system. They went out together. They Ubered out. They stopped and got food. They Ubered home. They let their dog out to go potty. And then they locked their house up. They did everything right. And this still happened.
Imagine, there is anyone? Karen, what do you think?
Yeah.
That one is a little clearer. Stop it. Stop. I'm going to play it again. Listen. Imagine, there is anyone? Karen, what do you think?
Who survived the massacre were awake and texting each other while their 4 friends were stabbed to death one by one. This new revelation reportedly coming from grand jurors on the case and leaked to family members. Now, the only suspect, Brian Koberger, is still awaiting trial. According to the probable cause filing, one surviving roommate says she witnessed the killer, described as having, quote, bushy eyebrows, walking past her and then out of the home. Prosecutors say they do have Koberger's DNA found on a knife sheath left under one of the victims, and the judge has entered a not guilty plea on Koberger's behalf. Let's bring in Misty Maris, legal analyst and trial attorney. Misty, thank you so much for your time. So this is a new twist. It allegedly comes from grand jurors in the case, but no one is going on a record. What was your initial reaction to this potential bombshell?
As far as this is concerned, it's really difficult to verify whether this information is actually true. So let's go through a little bit of the history of the case. When the news first broke about this terrible, tragic killing, we learned that there were 2 roommates who survived the attacks who were in the house at the time. Now, at first we heard that they were both asleep. They didn't wake up till the following day. Then hits the probable cause affidavit. Well, the story begins to change. One of the roommates now had this encounter where she sees the assailant in the house that evening. So this is a dramatic change from the information that was set forth in that probable cause affidavit, if it were in fact the case that the 2 roommates were awake and texting during that time. So what does it mean for the case? Well, that would certainly be contemporaneous evidence relayed in those text messages as to what the 2 roommates heard and saw that night. Now, again, we haven't verified whether or not this is true, and we likely won't know until the trial actually unfolds. But it would certainly be a game changer for the prosecution.
Well, it certainly would, Missy. And we know that there is, a gag order in this case. That's, the fact that we need to remember. So what happens if someone keeps leaking information, whether or not it's true, and even if they're doing it anonymously?
If the leaker is a grand juror, there are very, very strict rules about what grand juries can say in the public sphere. Now, those rules change jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but Idaho has a similar rule to New York. Grand jurors are not allowed to speak to anybody about the evidence that they see in the courtroom, about the deliberations as far as coming to that conclusion of actually coming back with an indictment. So this would all be completely off limits if in fact a grand juror was leaking this information.
Have we looked at any boyfriends or any ex-boyfriends, any spouses as a potential suspect?
I will tell you, we are looking at everyone. Every tip we get, every lead we get, there's no one that we're not going to talk to. There's no one we're not going to interview. There's no one that we're not going to look into. And we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to make sure that nothing goes unturned and that we do everything we can with this, all the resources to get a final answer. Thanks, Ryan.
So there were, sorry, I'm Emma Epperly with this book's interview. Hi. So there were other roommates who lived at that residence. Were the roommates home at the time of the attack?
There was other people home at that time, but we're not just focusing just on them. We're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
So since they were home, was it a hostage situation?
No, it was not.
And then they didn't call it into police, so were they injured? Sorry, I'm Emma Epperly with this book's interview. Hi. So there were other roommates who lived at that residence. Were the roommates home at the time of the attack?
There was other people home at that time, but we're not just focusing just on them. We're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
So since they were home, was it a hostage situation?
No, it was not.
And then they didn't call it into police, so were they injured?
They were not injured, but like I said, we're still following up with everybody that could have been in that area.
And how can you say it's a targeted attack if you don't have a suspect?
Like I said, we take the totality of the situation. We try to make the best bit of information we can with everything that comes in, and then we make our decision off of that. So,
I want to clarify something you said earlier. Over the past couple of days, the information that we've been getting is there's not a threat to the public. And earlier I heard you say you can't be sure that there is no threat. I just want to clarify what your stance is on that at this time.
So we still believe it's a targeted attack, but the reality is there's still a person out there who committed 4 horrible crimes. So I think we got to go back to there is a threat out there still, possibly. We don't know. We don't believe it's going to be to anybody else. But we all have to be aware of our surroundings and make sure that we're watching out for each other. Our officers arrived on scene, went in to do caregiving check on the individual who was unconscious, that we found the scene that we found.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Heather Roberts with ABC News. Just to follow up on what she asked, so the other two roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information we have from our investigation is that yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That's correct.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, you know, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. Would have we loved for that to have happened? Yes, but that's not how it took place. So that's why we're investigating everything still to try to pull all the pieces together.
Were they the 911 caller?
At this point in time, I'm not going to divulge who our 911 caller is, just because I want to keep the integrity of the investigation at this point, okay?
Okay, and last question, are you able to tell whether the same weapon was used on all 4 victims?
You know, that's why we're having the autopsies done. The autopsy will confirm that and hopefully collect some evidence for us, even from those. That's why you do the autopsies, is to try to be thorough and try to gather more. So we'll leave that would probably be something that would come out later.
Welcome back to my Mental Health and Crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for entertainment purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruple murders that took place on the 13th of November, 2022. Today I'd like to discuss a bit about the front door. The front door was left wide open. We know that because a neighbor who was on his way to work at 8:30 in the morning saw the front door open. This is before the 911 was called and before the quadruple murder vandal alert was sent out to the university. So why would the front door be left wide open on a winter night, or a very cold winter night? I find that to be really baffling. It was even said this is all for entertainment purpose only. It was even said in the beginning that somebody or some project that was going on that had basically the small project house or something that was having camera recordings around Kings Road spotted at 2 a.m. that same night the quadruples was going to take place basically. Basically, a blonde young female was seen allegedly running out of Kings Road. Now that is interesting. And then we have the front door that was left wide open. So my question is, could it have been one of the surviving roommates, DM or BF, that heard what was happening upstairs, heard the commotion, or saw something and understood that this was serious, that people were being unalived, and they barged out to the door and left it wide open? That is just my speculation and my thoughts. Let me know what you all think about that. Another thing that I really want to talk about, in the airmail article, the first airmail article that came out after the quadruple murders, it was said that the surviving roommates were asleep. When they got up around 11 a.m. and they saw, or they felt like they couldn't get into Xana's room, and they must have called all the roommates and nobody answered. This is it. This doesn't make sense, because I would have gone upstairs. If Xana's room wasn't open, I would have gone and called Kaylee and Maddie, may the rest in peace, to try and help me to open Xana's door. But apparently, the two surviving roommates decided to call Hunter Johnson and the Sigma Chi boys. I'm not saying that Hunter Johnson is from the Sigma Chi. I'm just saying that Hunter Johnson was called because he is his best friend and Xana. He came down there. We heard rumors and speculations that he called his brother Hunter Chapin too. And they got in somehow into Xana and his room. I believe E was blocking the doorway was said, and it was said that E was found on the corridor. He was not found on the bed unless he was put on the bed later, allegedly. The reason I say that is certain YouTube creators like What's Obsession wants us to believe that E was found in bed. He wasn't. You can go and check that on many sources, like even News Nation said that. And I'm not saying that they're best in their sources, but they do have their own sources too. And I've read that in many other newspapers too. So E was found. Obviously, common sense would tell us that E was found somewhere blocking the door. So he couldn't have been found in bed. Xana was found on the floor. May she rest in peace. That we are aware of. That is the reason I complain so much about certain people working with the fraternity boys. That would never make sense to me. How dare do people barge themselves into active quadruple murders, cases that are a case that is so active that it's actually a capital murder. And then we have a YouTube creator who wants us to believe that E was found in bed. If he was found in bed, and if we want to believe her, or we decide to believe her, that means we have to debunk all the other news reports, which I ain't going to do, because news reports know better than we do. And they were at the scene. What's the Obsession wasn't at the scene. So don't take anything from me or from her or from other creators trying to debunk stuff from this case. It's in nobody's business. It's nobody's business to be debunking anyone. That is completely wrong. If we want to find content for our channels, we better do it in a respectful way instead of debunking what Kim or Dave or Dot said. Because who are we? We are not the FBI. We are not Moscow police. We don't have a background of how law enforcement works. So who are we to decide to literally make this case muddy? That is one of the reasons this case is never coming to a proper conclusion. The trial hasn't started, so I wouldn't say conclusion. I apologize about that. But I would say that this case has become so muddy. Everyone has just put their two fingers literally into this case that is just jeopardizing for us to get the correct justice for these precious souls. These 4 souls need their justice. They deserve their justice. And I'm doing it for awareness so such cases and such things don't happen. It's about prevention. It's about learning from mistakes. Learning from, not even mistakes. This is a horrific quadruple murders that we can never get back these 4 beautiful souls. But we can try and put out awareness for things that go out in fraternities and sororities. We are aware of the drug culture that is in the fraternities. Let's not lie to ourselves. Every parent wants to send their child to a proper college. They want their children to have these experiences of fraternities and sorority and college life, because college, let's be honest, is where our youngsters learn how to be independent and take responsibility of their actions and learn to be young adults that are good citizens and that can help society and do wonderful things like Xana, E, Kaylee, and Maddie wanted to do. So we have to make sure that we stop debunking things and acting like we are law enforcement. It's in nobody's right to be debunking things. Yes, there's a lot of lies in this case. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation in this case. but it's not our business to be trying to debunk things. Dave did actually say at the start that he heard that it was an overdose. We heard Kaylee's mother saying that she heard that Kaylee was shot in a party. We've heard many rumors from the beginning up to now that there was the students, the 4 victims were gagged. I'm not saying that's true, but then when I look at the picture Saeed is watching, one of the picture clearly shows that they look like in a position that the people sitting down look like they were gagged. I'm being honest of what I see, and y'all can go zoom in into the picture Saeed is watching. I don't understand why people ain't doing that. And I don't understand why law enforcement haven't spoken about that. They released the body cam without even seeing what was on the body cam. We clearly heard a female yelling, "Stop it, stop." It could have been a joke. It could have been someone else and not the victims. But it's kind of strange when you look at the timing, 3 to 4 a.m. No matter how much I research and no matter how much I go back, 3 to 4 a.m. is the correct timeline. If you go according to that timeline, things will be in place. Things will make more sense. But I believe they changed the timeline from 3 to 4 a.m. so that they could link it with the Hyundai. And let me say one thing. I have never said that Brian Christopher Koberger is innocent. I'm still trying to figure out where he comes into this case. Because for the FBI to say that BK's phone was pinging in the areas, I believe them. These are well-educated law enforcement. The FBI have the resources. They're good in data technology. They're good in finding our pictures and reports and things that we have edited from our phones. They can retrace them. So I do believe that the FBI has a point with the car, definitely, but the question is, was Brian Christopher Koberger responsible for the quadruple murders? There's a difference if he was implicated in it somehow or the other. He could have been the brains of this whole quadruple. That is completely possible. But the question is, did he go in as a loner, as a single person, and unlike these 4 students, my question is, did he go in with others and do it? Or did Brian Christopher Koberger organize this crime and lend out his knife to the people who were doing it? Those are all reasonable questions to ask. And we shouldn't be shying away of asking the important questions. If we want justice for these 4 innocent people, then we have to ask the tough questions. But there's a difference of asking questions and as a creator working and talking to people in the fraternities and sororities. That is ethically wrong to start with. We are not supposed to be contacting these young people. They have been through trauma if they weren't involved in this case. Somehow or the other, it's touched them all. Since these were their friends and people they knew well. So for us to be putting people in this situation of contacting fraternities who could be one of the 400 witnesses for all we know. We've been hearing this 400 witness thing for a while. And if that is the truth, it's not right for the people in the sororities or the fraternities to be talking to YouTube creators unless those YouTube creators are helping them out with the alibi. I'm being honest. Certain things you don't touch because we're not lawyers, we're not prosecutors, we're not the FBI, and we're not law enforcement. Now, moving on from that, I would really like to focus a bit about the words Kaylee's sister, Alvira/Olivia, aka Olivia, said. She said clearly that my sisters did everything right. They took the body ride. the private share Uber driver, she said that they were together the whole night. They went home together, and they let the dog out to potty. Now that is important. When they let the dog out to potty, that means obviously you have to open the door to let the dog out to potty. Did someone barge in? Did someone push the girls in? Is that the reason we could hear on the Linda Lane footage barking and such things? Was Murphy lost? Was Murphy hidden from the girls when they took him out to potty? Did someone grab the girls? The reason I ask that is all are legit questions. You see Maddie's black long coat that allegedly she borrowed from one of the jacks that night. Allegedly is just rumors. Her coat was found behind the bushes, and we saw the officers next day checking the coat, checking the pockets, and throwing the coat back in the bushes. What was up with that? Aren't they supposed to bag it and tag it? Nothing of that sort was done. A lot of movements was going on near the Banfield body cam area where the cops were, the undercover cops. We saw 4 figures running at 3:12. It's like, I'm really sorry that I have to repeat myself so much about these things, but those are facts of the case. The 4 figures should never be taken out. The 3 unidentified DNAs should never be taken out, because clearly, if you watch the Banfield and you pay attention, I've analyzed that video so much I can literally do it to my sleep these days. Banfield and grub truck video, you see a lot going on. And in the Banfield, there's one of the young gentlemen in the middle guy, tall guy with the glasses, sunglasses at night or whatever, glasses that the reflection changes at night. I don't even understand why would you be wearing such glasses. And I don't understand why the officers did not ask them to remove their glasses, and they didn't ask them to take their hands off the pocket. I'm in the UK, but whether you're in the UK, the United States, Canada, Australia, India, any country in this world, Africa, no officer is just going to watch you standing there with all 3 of y'all have your hands in the pocket. Now what is strange is, did y'all see when the Banfield clip started? If you go back, you will see Saeed coming from the other side, and guess what Saeed tells the officers? What's up? Which student or which youngsters or even adult, who do you know of who could be telling a cop what's up? Do they know each other is my question? He even offered to take the cops home to his house, and he said, I'll show you my driving license. I find that to be classic. That is a joke, because imagine being pulled up by the cops when you're driving and you say, you know what, I don't have my driving license. By the way, officer, can you come along with me? Come home, I'll show you. Or come to my office and I'll show you my ID if you need it. And the officer said, no, that won't be necessary. And then he was asked to take it out, and then he was playing with his device, and Saeed was clearly watching Maddie or Kaylee sitting on the bed, just like Kaylee's parents said. That is disturbing. I personally believe half of the people in the grub truck and Banfield were watching either the pictures of the unlivings or either unlivings as a live stream. There, I said it. Because I have researched it so much that the more I dig into this case for over a year, especially the last 6 months, it's hard to imagine that there wasn't a live stream going on. I've heard it was on Snapchat, I've heard it was on Instagram, and I've even heard it was on Facebook. Now, what is interesting that I wanted to tell you is I love to watch true crime. So I was watching this episode on 48 Hours. I'll try, when I remember the name of the episode, I'll get back to you all and I'll leave it in my community page and the link. You'll need to watch that because it's very interesting. It was, I think her name was Melissa, if I'm not wrong. This woman was married and basically, allegedly, she wanted to get rid of her husband, unalive her husband. So he was at home, and then she rented some people to do this. She rented 2 people. And while she rented them to do it, she pretended like she was going shopping, which she did. She went to Walmart, and then obviously law enforcement later on found the CCTV camera of the Walmart, her room, roaming around, looking at the shelves and all, and she had a headset on her ear, and she kept on watching a mobile device. What was interesting is she got away with this case. The case is actually still pending. It's still going on. It's a criminal case. The 2 guys that she rented got busted, luckily. Unfortunately, her husband didn't make it. It was a horrific crime that they did. He was unalived. It was a bloody scene, trigger warning. And when the officers were watching her shopping at Walmart, they're still under investigation, but the officers and the FBI believe that she was actually watching her husband being unalived on a live stream. It was kind of like she had, I think, the camera foot, she had the surveillance at her home for the security system, and from there it was connected in one of her apps. She downloaded the app, and then she could see exactly what was going on in her home. And then she was watching the unaliving of her husband. How do you like that? Now that, immediately when I saw that, I remembered the Idaho quadruple case. And I even told a friend of mine who is involved in this case too. She's a very good subscriber. Shout out to her. We even discussed this and we spoke about this, and we found this to be very interesting. And I sent it to her and I asked her, what do you think about it? Isn't that strange? So could they have done that? And we were discussing that. So what do you all think about it? If that is possible, could they have actually installed cameras in the house to the security system? Because let's remember, look at the picture that Joe Vito is watching. One of the pictures, if you zoom it in, you can see the kitchen cupboards of 1122 Kings Road. So it looked like he was watching a live stream somehow or the other. Let me know what you think. And this is all allegedly for entertainment purpose only, and it's speculations. So the live stream and the camera is one thing I'm really wondering about. Now we have this other thing about 400 witnesses who may be called. I don't think Judge John Judge has time for all that. But if he has time for all that, it's going to be very interesting. Which 400 witnesses are they going to call? I hope they call half of the grub truck, all the people that came in from the minute in fact 10 minutes before Kaylee and Maddie came in. Number 9, number 8, David Lodge. I'm not naming names only because they are there. I'm not going to ignore the fact. There's a difference of naming people who are underage and minor and people who are adults. I'm not saying that they were involved in the crime, but I want to know why David Lodge and his 2 buddies turned away towards, like they turned their backs towards Kaylee and Maddie when Kaylee and Maddie were coming in. I find that very interesting. And then right after that, you could see Jack Showalter fixing his hoodie and all that, turning away from the camera, and then he turns towards David Lodge and they nod their heads. What was that about? Like Saeed said, what's up? Saeed Ali, you know a lot. Give these 4 students their justice. If you're not involved, well and good. But I would love to know who sent you those pictures, because that clearly shows Kaylee sitting on the bed like her father and mother described. And if the front door was left open, this changes the whole theory, because the police said that they believe that the killer or the killers came in from one of the windows or from the kitchen. So that would be directly to the second floor. It's really sad. And my main question I'd finally like to end with is the main one, actually. The airmail article said that before 911 was called, people went inside the house and 2 people went upstairs and found Kaylee and Maddie unlived, while the rest of them were downstairs, I assume with Hunter or the hunters, and they were shocked over finding E and Zana. Now the 2 people went upstairs. Were their DNAs taken? Were any of the people in that house before the 911 is DNAs taken? Because there's 3 unidentified DNAs roaming around. And at the same time, the people who went upstairs is really, really crucial for me. The more I think about it, let's not forget the knife sheet that ties Christopher Kohlberger to this case. The knife sheet could have been planted by anyone who went upstairs before the police. Any of the people involved in this horrific crime could have gone and planted or touched the knife sheet with BK's DNA on it. That is very possible. You've heard the experts. They said you don't even have to be in a certain place for your DNA to get there. Just the fact that you come into a house or to a big hall or a room and you've been talking to someone far away, your fluids and everything, your spit will trigger warning. Not trigger warning, sorry. It's a bit, actually. It's not a trigger warning, but your DNA is all over the air. So it wouldn't be surprising if BK, I won't be surprised if he says that he's been there partying. That will prove that his DNA was there from before. So please let me know what y'all think. I hope the correct justice is served for these students. But the more I check, the more I'm aware that the surviving roommates should be questioned properly. It doesn't make sense. They know exactly what happened. I don't believe for a second that anyone was in such a long 8 hours to 9 hours frozen shock. Doesn't make sense to me. Wonder if the surviving roommates know exactly who did this, because if it's true what one of the grand jury members snitched or spoke about, told about, they said it was said that the surviving roommates were texting each other. That will be BF and DM. And if that is the truth, then this opens a can of worms, because they could have easily called 911. There's no excuse for no one to be calling. And not only that, by them not calling 911 makes me really believe that they felt safe to stay in the house and that they knew the people who did this horrific crimes. Let me know what you'll think about it. I'd like to thank all my new subscribers. I would love to thank my old subscribers. This is my family channel. You're a part of my family. And please continue keeping the comment channel mindful and decent, because there's so many YouTube rules. Do not use words like drugs, please. Use a D word. Unlivings, please do not use K words. It's just that there's so many rules, and my intention is to keep this channel for a while so that I can spread awareness, especially in this case. And I have no intention of leaving this case, whether it goes up to 2025, hopefully, because these 4 students need the justice. The correct justice has to be served. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a lovely Easter break, was it? Have a lovely Easter break, and I hope that everyone's taking care of their mental health, their physical health. Take time for yourselves. Do not get burnt out at work, wherever. It's important to take good health of yourself. Mental health awareness should be spread. It's important. Everyone is aware that mental health awareness is half of the reasons that crimes actually happen. I'm not saying it's whole reason, but half of it. Like domestic violence, many things. So look after yourselves. Look after your anxiety level. Look after your depression level. Take some time for yourself. Do some yoga, meditation, maybe faith. Some people prefer to go to the mosque or to the church or to the temple. Wherever and whatever makes you feel comfortable, do it. Just ease your anxiety and your stress. Please look after yourselves, look after one another, and I love you all. Stay blessed.